Welcome to Pulse on Productivity, the go-to podcast where we dive deep into the world of CRM solutions, business automation, and the secrets behind operational excellence. We'll explore innovative strategies and share expert insights to help you streamline your processes, enhance productivity, and ultimately transform your business results. Whether you're looking to optimize your CRM system, integrate powerful automations, or just get a little more organized, you're in the right place. Let's unlock the potential of technology to make your business not just function, but thrive. Now, here's your host, Carol Den Hartog, coming to you from Amazing Business Results.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we have Simon Fedorowski here from Sfir Consulting. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So do you want to start off by telling everyone a little bit about who you are and what your business is?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Simon Fedorowski. I'm a partner and co-founder of Sfir Consulting Limited. We are a full cycle bookkeeping firm based out of Toronto, but we deal with clients all over the US and Canada and England. Our main two kind of servicing areas are system implementations and bookkeeping month to month, sort of like an internal person would be at a company. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about automation and what that looks like inside of your business. So to get started, let's talk about before automation came into the picture. What did your business look like prior to automating anything?
So we've been around for about 8 years, starting to go on almost 9, I guess, from like inception of the idea of this business. And for the first, I would say 5 years, solid 5 years, we were in a lot of historical dinosaur style software, as I would like to call it. So things that are not really communicating between each other. They're all working in silos. It's kind of like when you get a subscription to one thing and you just continue on to the next. And at some point you realize that you have so much going on at the same time, but nothing's really saving you too much time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think before, and given that we're an accounting firm, so we use Excel really, really heavily. Prior to using Zoho, and just in the first 5 years of the business, we used a lot of different tools like Monday.com. We had essentially the QuickBooks platform for customer data. So it's been a very busy few years back then. And as the years went by, we started to notice a lot of gaps, right? So calendars weren't syncing properly. We didn't have a proper tool for work drive, so we had, Dropbox. It was very complicated, and it turned out to be the perfect thing that we needed at the time. But as we progressed and became bigger and more international, I think that's where we really got into a lot of issues.
Right. So what was the turning point where you realized I need something more than this? And what did that kind of look like to journey into the automation?
A big part of it was probably employee count. So once we reached about 5 to 10 users, we started to realize the cost that was really ramping up on the back end.
Right.
And the other part of it was obviously just control. So having the control to be able to do what we need to do with our team from a restriction perspective and just process. So that plus the size of the business customer-wise, we started to really want to make sure that we focus on timelines. And when you're running a small operation, you could use an Excel file. Monday.com is great. But when you take that 2.0 stage, I think that's really where you start to think about, okay, data sets. How do we start to analyze the data that we have for work based on our employee load, right? So we really took it to the next stage by thinking about, okay, how do we take this from being a 5 to 10 employee company and comfortably grow it to 50 to 60 in the next 5 to 10 years? And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Right. I like how you said comfortably grow, because a lot of people, they just think about growing and they don't think about what exactly that entails and what they're going to need to be able to grow. A lot of people are trying to catch up after they grow and figure out, what do I need to implement now because I've gotten too big for my structure to maintain.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just, the reactive approach versus the proactive approach.
Right.
It's whether you're growing with the trends right now or you're saying, oh, everybody else has done it, it's safe for us to do, then I will do it now. Right. So it's two different schools of thought. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, for sure. So what were the first aspects of your business that you decided to automate? What did that look like?
The number one thing was data, so customers, making sure that we could service them. And it's not much. We don't have like a big data set of a list, but we have a good client base that's been with us for this whole time that we want to make sure that we're servicing properly. So doing
Right.
different add-ons that are revolving around customer data sets, that help us just do our job better, quicker, and just be able to be more efficient along the way. So CRM was a really big target. And for us, a lot of the times we need to do engagements and contracts. So Zoho Sign was big. So CRM, Sign, something that would replace essentially Adobe and DocuSign at the time. And then we also had obviously the accounting system, which we relied on heavily. And being an accounting firm, we wanted to test out and make sure to see, look, is Zoho really what it is? And this was about
Right.
5 years ago, so you don't have a lot of the bells and whistles now. But Zoho was a killer software back then when you compared it, the book side of things. So that's kind of the main driver, I would say. The number one thing was CRM, just starting to act like a bigger company. That's really the best way to put it. And then it was, how do we make sure that the finance is also part of that growth spurt?
Right. So it went from you testing out Zoho Books to see if it would work for your company, and now you're managing Zoho Books for other companies because you like the software so much, right?
That's right. Yeah. So since 2019, so we started looking into Zoho back then. Since 2019, we've done quite a few hundred implementations into Zoho for companies all over the world. That includes Europe, Singapore, India, Australia, Canada, US, pretty much anywhere that has an active set of customers for Zoho. We've done quite a bit of work there. Now, when it comes down to the actual implementations, they really range from different businesses, different divisions, things like that. But us just trying things out on our own, it was just incredible. So I can't stress enough how much of a big upgrade it's been to just go to a software that's great, but is not expensive. And I'll go into
Right.
that in a sec because expensive doesn't always necessarily mean the right thing. So I've worked in the past with SAP Enterprise, SAP B1, NetSuite, pretty much any software under the sun that's big enterprise level software I've seen and worked with. When you look at Zoho, it fits into a category that's enterprise level without the bells and whistles that you might not need, right? So if you're a servicing company like ours, you do inventory that's very straightforward. Any type of products that you're selling, Zoho can actually work really well for you without going to NetSuite and being oversold by Oracle, right?
Right. So what are those things that you like so much about Zoho or Zoho Books?
A big chunk of it is obviously the connectivity, so being able to connect our applications. And the
Right.
second one is definitely user controls. So limiting for user restrictions based on roles or based on departments or based on people who are involved in that process within that, section of the business. So definitely those two things. So being able to do automations and taking things to the next level, and also just being able to say, okay, this person can only see X, Y, Z, and be able to go to the field level, which is really great.
Yeah. So what kind of automations do you have inside of your systems?
So a lot of our automations start with the CRM. So any of that client intake side of things is really there. So for example, when we need somebody to sign an NDA or a service agreement or a contract, all those things are being pre-populated in the CRM, pushed to Zoho Sign. There's a workflow or some logic behind it, whether it's who's signing it, who's approving it on our end internally, and then it pushes it back to the CRM and triggers an action. And that actually could be a project created or a customer being made or an email being sent internally or an entire bookkeeping client being onboarded. So we kind of started from the basic to the end. So we look at the life cycle of our customers from a lead, and we just pretty much plugged in a whole bunch of awesome stuff. So that's really what it was.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's talk about kind of what that process looked like, because I know in previous episodes, Leo and I talked about how important architecting is before you actually implement anything inside of your system. So what was your experience like with going through the architecture, going with the high level and kind of planning it out before you implemented? Did you do that?
Yeah, a lot of time was spent just mapping things out in advance. So ABR did a great job at supporting us through that whole process because when you go into it, you think you know XYZ, but it's really not the
Right,
reality, right? And then when you sit in there and you start to actually operate, then you see different ideas come up as to how you could have done things a bit better, right?
mm-hmm.
So when you look at things from 1,000 feet, you say, okay, this looks logically, this makes sense. When you're actually operating and you have your team operating out of it, that's when things get a little dicey and things get very different. And you have to make
Right,
those modifications. I think a big part of Lior and your team, you guys just saved us a lot of time and energy in advance by just telling us up front that things could be done or things can be done, but they're going to be challenging because so and so, right? So
right.
I think doing architecture in advance is a brilliant idea, and sitting down and mapping things and speaking with your team, getting them comfortable. I think that's also really important.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, you brought up a really good point about the kind of changes that can happen after implementation. A lot of people think that there's maybe something wrong if you have to do that. And I tell people having a CRM is kind of like an endless journey because you're always going to learn about a new feature or you're going to change the way your process works. So there's always going to be changes happening. If your system isn't evolving, then that means you're not growing.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that idea and that point because at the end of the day, your CRM journey or any kind of software journey is one that is made up of two different really important factors. One is who are you as a business owner and who are the managers? Because you could take a company that's identical in the same industry, in the same geographical region, but managed by two completely different people. And those two different people are going to architect a system that's very different.
Mm-hmm.
So you also have to realize the personality side of it really makes an impact. So who you are will essentially showcase who the what the CRM will look like. Okay.
Right.
And that's number one. Number two is also how far do you want to go with the CRM or any architectural designs within Zoho or any system for that matter, right? Do you want to do simple things or do you want to automate the complete to the moon and back, right?
Right.
It's all in your hands, but I think starting at, I would say 50 or 25% capacity of what you want as an end goal. So doing the key things first
Mm-hmm.
is really what's going to help you get to a successful project at the end.
I agree with that. It also helps because a lot of people that want to go all in and do everything and go to the moon and back, like you said, they get overwhelmed when they get that delivered. So we always
Exactly.
break things down into milestones for that reason, because we can give you a chunk of what you're looking for, show you how to use it, you start to understand it, and then we move on to the next thing, rather than if we just give you this huge system that you've never used before and you're learning everything all at one time, it can be too much for a person.
A really big tip here it would be to actually work in silos. It sounds so counterproductive because typically you have people who say, do not work in silos. You have to see the whole picture. But the reality is, with the system side of it, you want to see the way that things look from the individual operating in that function of the business. So from
Right.
the accounting side, you want to do the accounting separately. You want to do the CRM separately. Don't do them at the same time because you might realize you want to add a couple things here and there, and then you'd have to go back and at the same time try to modify things on the other side. So
Exactly.
it's actually smarter to tackle things one step at a time, and in that process, start the other components as you're going. We see this a lot. People get super excited about the systems, and they'll do CRM, deal management, lead management. They'll do the accounting, inventory. They'll get in the HR part of it and people, right? All of these things at the same time, but then there's a huge amount of chaos right around like 3 weeks before implementation go live, right? Where everybody's
Right.
panicking, oh, this is not working. Well, we need to add this piece here. You need to work in silos to get to that success rate. So
Yeah.
that's a big one for us.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point. So what did your team think about this when you made the transition? Because I know that's a huge challenge that a lot of people face is team adaption when it comes to changing anything major. So what did that look like for you?
I think a really big part of it was just from the beginning, we always had this open mindedness within the company. So we always talked about, hey, we always want to try out new things. And if we don't try, then there's no use in us continuing to work because we're an innovative
Right.
firm, right? So if you don't try, you're going to get stuck. And I think a big part of that just it was embedded in their psyche from the beginning. So throughout the process, as I was introducing new platforms, new apps, everybody was really positive and really excited to try things out. And
Mm-hmm.
the approach was, hey, we're going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, we're going to drop it, but we're going to do our best to at least make it work. Right. So that's
Right.
kind of the goal is, hey, this is what's happening. It's going to be okay. We have a really good team supporting us at ABR. We have a great amount of knowledge internally about how we want to do things, and we could do it the way that we want to do it. That's the great part about it. And I
Right.
think that point really took it over the line for them, and people were just really interested. Now, I'm sure you're going to ask this. We've had people who are not happy about the changes that we're making internally.
Right.
And unfortunately, with the business, as you're growing, whether it's, 500,000 to 1 million, 1 to 5, 20 to 100 million, those changes, a lot of people will be happy, but there will be people who are unhappy. And those people, it's natural. You're always going to have the curve there, and you're always going to have to deal with those individuals. When you get to that stage, you have to soften the blow as much as possible so it doesn't impact the entire operation, but
Mm-hmm.
understand that it's really just a natural part of it and just a natural part of the growth.
Right. Did you involve your team in any of the process? Like when you were going through the architecture or anything like that, did you involve them in it so that they felt like they had to say so?
I think that what we ended up doing is on the project side, we had our projects team involved when it was ready to be involved. So I had
Right.
the general idea of where we were headed, and the projects team took over and was essentially saying, okay, we're going to handle this and really take it over the line because they knew what they wanted to see. I knew what, as a business owner, where we needed to go with the application, but they needed to do the specifics because that's really their strength. I'm not a
Yeah.
project person, right? So just delegating and understanding who's doing what. Now, from the accounting side, I'm OCD. So I'm sure you remember, I wanted things
Yeah.
done a certain way, but that's how I like to do things. And it's always understanding how to delegate the parts that you're not really good at or the parts that you're not going to touch day to day, because those people are the ones who are going to be impacted the most. And
Mm-hmm.
that sense of ownership helps people dramatically because they're like, I'm part of this new software that we're implementing.
Exactly.
I want to do this right. I'm proud of what I'm doing. And that also connects you with the firm even more. So for
Right.
us, it was like a win across the board, pretty much with everything.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like Meg took care of our project implementation, and she's just managing that software like crazy. Diana is doing all of our recruit and our Zoho sign. Like we have different people who are the product specialists in the business rather than me
So
doing
they own that product.
exactly any product problem there, go to Meg, go to Diana. They'll handle it, they know how to handle it, and they'll be able to help out.
Right. That's awesome. So do you feel like from a customer perspective, do you think anything has changed for them and their experience with you based on making these changes?
So you're saying like our clients?
Yeah.
So when you look at software in general, you always look at retention because moving a system is great, but how long are you really using that system after, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we could do implementations all day long, but if the customer is not happy with the system that they're in, they're going to leave within a year. That's really what the trend is like, right? Within a year of operation, fiscal year end, on the accounting side, it's either a win or a big loss, unfortunately. We've had clients in the past. So we've done many, many of these implementations to Zoho, particularly to Zoho, and Zoho has seen the highest amount of retention pretty much across the board
Wow.
from any software that I've implemented in the last 8 years. So I think we've only had about 3 or 4 failed implementations because the company grew faster during that time frame, and they didn't anticipate adding new divisions and doing
Mm-hmm.
things that they didn't do before. So one of the examples is there was a, a company that used to import a lot of products from like internationally overseas. And at some point, they decided to open a completely new operation here and start manufacturing. When you get to that point, you're a very different business. You're now not in the distribution and buying and selling world. You're in the, hey, we're operating a production plant and we need to do production efficiencies and report on, you know, manufacturing, which is really tough from an accounting side. And that's where you typically go to NetSuite or SAP products just to do better because Zoho Inventory can't do production and manufacturing.
Gotcha.
So a couple of losses along the way, but you end up learning the limitations. And with us, it was always we want to make sure that we're very frank with our clients and tell them upfront, yes, this is possible, or stay away.
Right.
Let's talk about other solutions.
Yeah, that's always the best route to take with people.
Yeah,
That's what we do as well. So what do you have any analytics or KPIs implemented into your system?
we do. We have KPIs from a capacity perspective
Mm-hmm.
on the CRM side of things, and it feeds into analytics. So the way that it works is our clients are ranked on a complexity scale for the bookkeeping side. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just one example, right? So it'll push that data to the analytics world, which is where we can analyze it and take a look and see which team has the most capacity or which team is overwhelmed and has the least amount of return, right? So that's a great way for us to really track money, where it has to go and how to change certain things along the way.
You also, you're certified in analytics, right?
Yeah, yeah, we are. Yes.
Okay. So what does that look like for you guys? Are you implementing that for your clients or?
So we have some dashboards that we're creating
Yeah.
for quite a few of our clients that bring in the finance piece of it all. So it's a really good tool for everybody to start utilizing, because once the data is there and it's clean, the next step is how do we understand it and learn from it, right?
Right.
So once that, we set up custom dashboards all over the world for different functions of the business, whether that's recurring revenue or um, efficiencies within departments, right? Budgeting versus actual things that are really, really important in the business world. Yeah. So all the time.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know analytics is it can be dicey depending on who you work with. It'll either be a great result or not a great result. And I know we've gone down that path working with other people, trying to find someone who's experienced in it. And it's always a challenge.
Because you need to know the data and you need to know the system. So it's like two
Mm-hmm.
things. How do we use the data? How does the data present itself in the system? And then how do we take that and start to analyze and use actual BI related tools, right?
Right.
Um, that's a challenge always.
So when you're working just with a developer, they're very technical people and they're not thinking of it from that aspect and they don't understand the data.
Exactly. So you have to think about it from the perspective of the business owner. And I think from the developers, our staff accountants, because they've never been in business, they don't know what they need to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the folks in our team that are a little bit more advanced, the ones that have worked internally and have reported, they already have that knowledge of what board members would like to see or what different reporting stakeholders would like to see, right? Whether that's a referral source for the business or it's a manager within the business that's overseeing a team. Very different tools that need to be shown there. But if it's financial, we know exactly what they want to see.
Right. Okay. Um, Also, so we talked a little bit about like the client experience when it comes to them using Zoho Books, but did it change the way you serviced your clients? So do you think that they're getting better service based on the things that you implemented?
Definitely. Instead of wasting time on making sure that users don't go where they don't need to go, or making sure that customers get the right notification because we have it written down on a piece of paper, everything is digitized. And
Right.
because of that, it allows us to save a lot of time and be able to do an extra phone call or two a day, let's say, to say hello to a client or connect with somebody internally as a team,
Mm-hmm.
right, to push forward. For us, it's really about teamwork and just making sure that we're working together on this rather than, hey, I'm just doing my own thing and I'm just here to work and get through my
Right.
day, right? So definitely a lot of efficiencies of time and money and mistakes. Like things were at the stage where if I wouldn't have done the move to Zoho, we would have missed deadlines. We would have missed small things along the way that would have caused bigger problems down the road. So surprisingly enough, I was very naive in a way as a business owner up to that
Mm-hmm.
point.
So you said it saved you a lot of time. Do you feel like implementing these things because I know when you are running a company, you're very busy. Sometimes that cuts into your personal life. Do you feel like doing these things and implementing automations that are saving you time is helping you get some of your life back?
100%. I can't stress that enough. I mean, I just feel much more at peace knowing that the system does its work and that
Right.
flags are being raised people are made aware, and things are working on the back end without me having to push and push and push every single day.
Right.
So definitely a big improvement for us, and allows me to get some of that time back with my family, which I really like to do and make sure that I'm still a really big part of, because
Of
work
course.
is really important. But at the end of the day, you're not a good person at home if you're not a good person at work. And it kind of works two ways, right? So
Right.
it's always important to build that base to make sure that you have that comfort.
Yeah, for sure. And just having that stress off of you, like you were saying, with mistakes and things like that, not having to worry about that. I'm sure you're sleeping better at night.
Absolutely. 100%.
So are there any next steps for automation in your business? Do you have anything planned out that is up and coming?
A big part of what we're trying to do now is just structure. So the first step of the business growing was always, how do we automate absolutely as much as we possibly can? But
Sure.
now it's, how do we standardize the things that are day-to-day operational? So
Mm-hmm.
policies, things like that, onboarding employees, the employment process, right? All these little tools, mid-year reviews, these are things that are 2.0s, right? So we just did a Zoho People implementation for semi-annual reviews, and it's been phenomenal. I mean, Meg pretty much spearheaded that project and did the entire setup on her own using
Wow.
Zoho People. And we have it fully automated to the extent of getting people involved, notifying everybody, doing a review after, KPIs, they call them KRAs or KRIs. Yeah, KRAs, I think,
Yeah,
in
I think it's
Zoho.
KRA.
And we've really adapted well to that system. So now it's about adding the other components of the business so that we can grow into the next stage of our growth, really.
Right.
So yeah, we have a couple things on the horizon, but it's now a lot more like we're fine-tuning what we've already done. So like I said, you get to the 50%, you're
Sure.
happy with it. And now it's about tuning it to the 80, 90%, because it's never going to be 100. So
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
that's a very good point. A lot of people think it's going to be 100, especially like the first go around, they're expecting 100%. It's never going to be 100%. You got to be
Never.
comfortable with the like 90, 95 mark.
Yeah, I always say this, and it's kind of funny. I was in the fitness industry for a long time, and when you look at the bodybuilders who are perfecting their bodies, right? When
Mm-hmm.
they get on stage, they have more insecurities and things that they want to work on than the person who's just starting out. That's kind of a crazy thing to think about,
It
but it's the
is.
truth, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay. We're happy where we're at. We're continuing to build and test and try to expand, but knowing our limitations as well and just staying within those boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Simon. It was really
Anytime.
nice to chat with you.
You too, Carol. Thank you.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Pulse on Productivity. We hope you found the insights and strategies shared today enlightening and actionable. At Amazing Business Results, we're dedicated to helping you leverage the power of CRM and automation to drive your business forward. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform to stay updated with the latest in business efficiency and tech solutions. We love to hear from our listeners, so please leave us a review or reach out with any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes. And remember, efficiency is not just about doing more, it's about achieving more.